own financing. I think there is a will, there is a way. The tons of money you're talking about civil society and how we raise it. And one thing, this country is not very philanthropic, by the way. Very difficult to get money. And so climate, if you want to build a temple, there's money. You want to go to an orphanage, there's money. For Cancer Foundation, even you might have money, but not for civil society. So it doesn't matter, we will continue to do what we have to do. But I think the point I want to raise is actually the issue of financing for the kind of community work that happens on the ground in the grassroots, and the challenge that is connecting to biodiversity and ecosystems. There's a big, whether it's a market-based approach or whether it should be a collaborative approach. There's two different clashing paradigms. And I'm going to be very provocative here. Now, in relation to the one financing model that's been really good and effective is the UNDP Small Grants Program. Many of us have had experience with that. If some of the work that many of us have done is through that, which actually, because we actually sit at the National Steering Committee level, civil society represented, government represented, and then you really have the voice of communities, and you're able to directly make sure that the money goes to where it needs to go. So there is a livelihood issue with communities, they are participating, it's meaningful, and they drive it. It's really community owned. Now that's a very good model. And that's the kind of grant-based model. They don't ask for co-financing, they talk about in-kind financing. So that's a very good model. Now that's the kind of model that we should upscale and do a much better job of, because there's not enough money there, it dries up. And communities are funded for about 18 months and then there's no more money. Now that's not sustainability. And then you are asked, oh, how are you going to raise your own money? Then we are all stuck. So I think that's a good model, and we need to do more, and we can do more with more financing to the Green Climate Fund, to the Adaptation Fund, and we are fighting for a loss and damage window for communities there. Because it's not, governments are not the only way you channel money. You have to have processes where channel money directly, when at the front line of the people who are actually there were able to deliver. So these are good lessons to learn. Now the alternative, which is happening right now, carbon markets. Right? Now why do the private sector come? You have, and this is where I'm going to be provocative, you have timber companies in Sarawak who have been deforesting and with whom indigenous peoples have been fighting, and today they have transformed themselves into subsidiaries to have what's called engaging in carbon credits. So now they're going to the community and telling the community, we're going to do reforestation, you can help us, and this is how you can participate. So you have a Jekyll and a Hyde here. Suddenly you've become, Mr. Jekyll has become Mr. Hyde. And they're coming down to the community, and when the community says, what is this all about? We don't know what's carbon. Anybody knows what's carbon? Do you know how CO2 is measured? Have you seen a product called a carbon credit? Now I'm asking questions like this because nobody can verify. The carbon market is the biggest fraud that has been unleashed. I told you I was going to be provocative. It's not tangible, and we are selling it. And why are the corporations very excited? Because net zero. I offset, I fly and then I plant a tree. I'm done. I'm a good citizen. Right? I can continue to emit and I plant a tree and that CO2 is going to be sucked up. No, come off it. Are we scientists or what? So, it's not a laughing matter. It's damn serious. And why is the private sector interested? Because scope 1, scope 2, ESG, this, that, and the other. So this is where it's all about the offsetting. And so when we asked this company who approached indigenous peoples, said, can you show us what is the document that you asked them to sign? Said, no, not transparent. What is this? What is free, prior, informed consent? How are communities going to be taking part? One day you destroyed their land rights, and the next day you're coming in asking them to be help you save the forest. So, and then of course we are really worried about governance. A lot of the state governments are saying, I think the ecological fiscal transfer is the way to go. Grant-based, raise money, make sure that it's a lot more. But the minute you have all these foreign companies coming in and all kinds of shell companies and scams which are coming and selling, and it's the new gold. I think we are really in fantasy island. And so there's a lot of stuff out there. We are talking about the Vera and this and that and the gold standard. I don't think it's a gold standard. It's a lot of problems. So we do need to have, that's not climate financing. It's not going to get money to where it needs to go. So we need to have proper governance. We need grant-based finance, a lot more financing in terms of grants for adaptation and loss of damage.
Thank you, Meena. I'd love to. Thanks. I'd love to hear a little bit about Kuamwood, but also, you've got the Kuamwood that's been celebrated and being sold on the BCX today, but we also hear about the NCA, which is the other side of the story. I think we'll maybe save that for actually a carbon discussion, but I wonder if we should refocus the conversation to financing indigenous technology and indigenous solutions, how those challenges have looked like for you over the last 20 years, what looks hopeful as well, and why do these solutions fit Malaysia specifically?
Thank you. Before I go to that sort of more different kind of discussion, I think I just want to just echo what Meena has presented just now with regards to the small grants and how it actually very important for civil society and communities as a whole. Because for me, a lot of the over 40 different community mini grid systems that we built in Sabah Sarawak is actually funded through this small grants program. And even though $50,000 for some is peanuts, but this actually means a lot, because if you look at the other benefits from it, from watershed conservation into productive end use of energy and so on, it adds the value to it. And that's why I think the direct financing to particularly for indigenous communities is very important. And grants-based is actually something that really can catalyze also innovation, because you're not forced to really think about in a business sense, because you are really looking at the return is back to nature. It's not back to the pockets of someone who give you the money. And this is something that we should always consider. And for many indigenous communities, it has been a big challenge, because for us, many I call it CBOs, community-based organization, doesn't have the credentials to have access to larger grants. I know in Malaysia we have Yayasan Asana with all those grants, which is very good. But unfortunately, we have to also realize the condition and also the situation of many community-based organizations. You don't have those credentials of 5-year or 3-year accounting and so on, because we don't even afford to pay someone to do accounts. And even the capacity to do that, of course, there is a challenge on that, bridging that capacity gap. So I think the grant should also look towards capacity building that bundles together with grants to do actual projects. And that's how we can catalyze a lot of this adaptation and community-based solution that is already been developed in Malaysia. So in my work now at REP, I'm actually already extending it to a lot of other countries now, that the community-based solutions that we have developed through the community-based renewable energy mini-grids is already extending to Timor-Leste, Cambodia, Nepal, and they learn a lot. And I'm very fortunate because we are forced to look at different financing in Malaysia, because upper middle income country, so we don't have this ODA, so that's why we come up with a very innovative ways to actually look at how it can be financed. And one way is actually bundling up together with social entrepreneurship, so that a social entrepreneur can take on the business model and do about the sustainability of the systems and so on. But in the same time, there is also large funding available internationally, but it doesn't trickle down to the community, because it goes to like big organizations. So what we have done in making sure indigenous communities also have this is to come up with what we call a solidarity fund. So we have just launched last year in Dubai the Indigenous Peoples Solidarity Fund of Asia. We call it IPAS. So we're trying to consolidate the different countries working together so that we can have a pool of funds that can be decided by indigenous organizations themselves, and also help those organizations to have sort of the capacity in order to manage those funds. I know it's not easy to manage funds and reports, but these are something that needs to be invested on. So the finance should not just go towards the project, but also the capacity building of the community. And last but not least, of course, we are trying to see the other options of how nature-based solutions are still there. And of course, indigenous people have always been subject to that. So I'm not sure whether I should comment about this, but I still see that there is potential for community to participate in this. But if it's not recognized to indigenous people as rights holder, then it's not really a good thing. Because if we are indigenous people, for example, when it comes to talk about carbon market, carbon solution and so on, we are not just stakeholders, we are rights holders. We are rights holders to the forest. So it has to be considered to be seen at that perspective, and to make sure that they also have equity in terms of the share of the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mani. I'm really conscious of time. We have 10 minutes, so perhaps, Charlotte, I will save you for the Q&A.